They want this solved now.
They want, but they don't want the 82nd Airborne dropping in New York City.
Argue may be illegal.
The Army into the domestic confines of the United States may in fact be unconstitutional and illegal.
Every single president that I have served under has used the Guardsmen. We've done this before and we've done it very effectively. We've never had 8 million people be released into the United States in a 4-year period of time.
You said you think it'll go off without a hitch. We'll see.
So Trump has announced that he wants to use the military to aid in deporting illegal immigrants. And of course, like, the mainstream media has gone crazy over this. I'll explain more about it, but I'll show you this CNN host who tried to smear Trump's deportation plan, and then she just gets humbled so fast.
Tonight, Donald Trump is confirming he plans to use the U.S. military to carry out his pledge to conduct mass deportations, which Democrats have expressed deep concerns about and argue may be illegal. Here's Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
We, of course, are deeply concerned about, the President of the United States calling out military inside the United States. The idea of calling out, the Army into the domestic confines of the United States seems uncalled for and may in fact be unconstitutional and illegal.
When you hear declaring a national emergency, using the U.S. military to carry this out, is that the right way to do this, in your view?
Absolutely. When you look at some of the things that these guardsmen are going to be doing, we first have to recognize that the guardsmen have been used many times with every single president that I have served under has used the guardsmen. Janet Napolitano, former Secretary of DHS, she used the National Guard, unless my memory is faulting. But, this has been done in the past. But when you look at what they're going to be doing, you're talking about logistical work. You're talking about transportation. You're talking about intake. You're talking about potentially fingerprinting. None of this is police work. None of that has to be done by sworn law enforcement officers. And so what he's going to be doing is he's going to be calling on the National Guard. Now, I don't put it past Stephen Miller. He's a policy wonk. He understands policy extremely well. He's going to look at what else can be done by the National Guard, and anything that they can do under the law, I'm sure that's going to be what they're deployed to do in order to ensure that people are removed, that are subject to removal, are removed from this country.
The media just keeps trying to tear apart everything that Trump says or does, and they just can't accept that this is what people voted for. This is what the people feel America needs. But then even the qualified guests they bring onto the show end up blowing the argument up in their face, basically. Here he is, again, just leaving her speechless.
Does that mean that there is a likelihood or possibility that we could see National Guards, U.S. troops on American soil going into homes and businesses?
No, absolutely not. Again, that would be police work. When HSI takes somebody into custody and they don't have the means to transport, that's when you can see the National Guard. When you don't have enough sworn officers to do the fingerprinting or the intake, all of that logistical work, that can be done by the National Guard. And that has been done by the Guard in the past. So it's not something that we haven't seen before. We've done this before and we've done it very effectively.
But have we ever done it as a country on a scale like this? I mean, Trump is promising to carry out mass deportations way higher than what we're seeing right now, than what the Biden administration has been doing, which is in line with the level of deportations during the Trump administration. I mean, if ICE right now does not have the capacity to do what Trump is promising, how does that mean those National Guardsmen are not getting more involved than just the logistical aspect that you just mentioned there?
Well, the way you ensure that doesn't happen, of course, is if Governor Pritzker wants to file a lawsuit. Then the courts will weigh in. The courts will make that determination. Everything is subject to lawful review. Everything that I do, everything that any law enforcement officer does is subject to review by the judicial branch. When you look at the scale, we've never been in a situation like this before. We've never had 8 million people be released into the United States in a 4-year period of of time, we've never had more than 2 million a minimum of 2 million gotaways in a 4-year period of time. So this is unprecedented times, and when you have that, then you have to take unprecedented measures. But what I do look at is we have done this in the past, we've done it before, we've used the National Guard, and we've used them effectively, and I'm certain that this administration is going to use them effectively again.
But is it legal? Because I remember when Trump declared a national emergency the first time he was in office, he wanted to use military money for the border wall because Congress didn't give him as much as he wanted. I mean, that got tied up in the courts, and I don't believe it was ever resolved before Trump left office. I mean, is it legal for him to do this?
I think so.
She's so desperately trying to find something to catch Trump on, like something to hang on to, and she's obviously come into it unprepared, because I think she's hoping that he would just go along with the fear-mongering hype, and he just hasn't, and she can't find anything negative to cling on to. He doesn't give her anything. So he said it, this isn't new what they're going to do. So of course all the time there are deportations happening of illegal immigrants, but the issue, as we all know, is that unprecedented numbers have come through since the Biden and Harris administration, and they don't have the resources to deal with it. So what Trump is talking about doing is just doing a better, more efficient job at something that's already being done, just not being done well. So it's hard to turn that into a big hype because it's just common sense. But of course, like they still are. And of course, when all else fails, they use the scapegoat of Hitler comparisons. Have a look at this.
The challenge of sorting through them is mammoth. We had a hard time doing it in Iraq. Okay, our troops have had a hard time doing it in Afghanistan. Trying to ask them to sort through who's who and implement a policy like this, here in the United States is like nothing we've ever seen. Actually, I mean, maybe the only precedent we have is internment camps during World War II against Japanese Americans, but there's not a military precedent for sorting through who on the Upper East Side is illegal and who's not. And you're asking a 19-year-old, right, holding a weapon, who signed up to serve his or her country, to thrust themselves into maybe the most fraught political topic that we've got in this country. People want a solution, but they don't necessarily want that one.
You've twice now insinuated that Trump's going to send the military to round up American citizens, which is totally false. There are 1.3 to 1.6 million illegal immigrants in this country today who have already received deportation orders from a court. You can start there. There's another population, as Mark said, that have either committed violent crimes in the United States or committed violent crimes where they came from. You can also do that. That has nothing to do with the people in your neighborhood, has nothing to do with the person in your office, and has nothing to do with whatever the hell you're talking about. It has to do with getting people out of the country who do not belong.
How are you going to deploy the military? Give me how exactly you would deploy an active duty military unit to respond to this crisis.
I would use the military in conjunction with local officials,
but what does that look
local
like?
Law enforcement, county sheriffs, people who know their communities, because I assume a lot of the local sheriffs and jailers are going to be the people who end up housing some of these folks before they are deported. But there has to be some...
What's the task and purpose? What's the mission for that young private? What is he actually going to be tasked to do? Guard a gate? Or is he going to be investigating?
I don't know. I wasn't elected
president. But you're sitting here on CNN saying we should do it. I think you should think out a little bit more about what they actually should be required to do.
Do not belong.
It sounds real good.
One at a time. Scott, quickly.
There are millions of people who came into the country illegally, who have already received deportation orders, or who have committed some other crime while they've been here. The fact that you want to leave them in place is mind-boggling.
That is not what I said. That is not what I said.
Let me ask the same question I asked Chuck.
Yeah.
What was the mandate from the election? As much as any issue, immigration was on the ballot. So what do you think the voters were saying on immigration?
I think the voters were saying do something about it. I think broadly across partisan lines, there is almost universal need for people to do something about it. What you do about it is a totally different story.
I just wanted to ask as well, this channel is new and I really appreciate any support. So if you enjoy this video, if you want more content like it, please subscribe and, comment or whatever. Just every little helps. Thank you. Anyway, one of the major issues here is the entire problem with the left at the moment, which is just their solution to major problems is to just ignore them. And they won't accept how bad the situation is. Essentially, this man is saying that this will be too difficult to do, so let's just not do it. But what's your alternative solution then? Like, your candidate had months on the campaign trail to offer one and she didn't. The problem with the Democrats at the moment is that not only do they not provide solutions, but then they resist the ones that are provided.
President Trump's planned migrant deportation program. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey is already declaring that her state will not comply.
If the Trump administration requests it, would the Massachusetts State Police assist in mass deportations?
No, absolutely not. Every tool in the toolbox has got to be used to protect our citizens, to protect our residents, and protect our states, and certainly to hold the line on democracy and the rule of law.
But the president-elect's newly named border czar, Tom Homan, says he won't be stopped by sanctuary cities or states. Watch.
And look, I've seen some of these Democratic governors say they're going to stand in the way. They're going to make it hard for us. Well, a suggestion: if you're not going to help us, get the hell out of the way, but we're going to do it. So if we can't get assistance from New York City, and we may have to double the number of agents we send to New York City, because we're going to do the job. We're going to do the job without you or with you.
And Homan defended the president-elect's deportation plan, saying that it puts our national security first.
President Trump has made it clear we will prioritize public safety threats and national security threats first. If you're in the country illegally, you shouldn't feel comfortable. Absolutely not. I won't feel comfortable if I'm in the country illegally. You shouldn't be comfortable either, because when you enter this country illegally, you have committed a crime. You are a criminal, and you're not off the table.
I mean, this is why Homan is the man for the job, right? Like, he's just so logical. This speaks to why things have gotten so bad in America if there's this much resistance to just getting a job done. I just wanted to show, this is J.D. Vance explaining it.
Once you stop Kamala Harris's open border policies, you've got to do something with the people who are already here. And I think that you take a sequential approach to it. You are going to have to deport some people. If you're not willing to deport a lot of people, you're not willing to have a border when there are 20 million illegal aliens in our country.
10 to 15 million people, this is like, I mean...
Well, John, I think that's the wrong attitude to take of it. Okay,
so you go knock on doors and ask people for their papers,
again, but
what do you do?
Let me finish. I think this is the wrong attitude towards it, right? There's 20 million people here illegally. You start with what's achievable. You do that. And then you go on to what's achievable from there. I think that if you deport a lot of violent criminals, and frankly, if you make it harder to hire illegal labor, which undercuts the wages of American workers, I think you go a lot of the way to solving the illegal immigration problem. But look, President Trump is absolutely right. You cannot have a border unless you're willing to deport some people. I think it's interesting that people focus on, well, how do you deport 18 million people? Let's start with 1 million. That's where Kamala Harris has failed, and then we can go from there.
At the end of the day, the people spoke, and the situation is dire enough that people want disruption. And it's going to be a hard challenge to do it, because they will be met with resistance, like absolutely everywhere. It's just factual that there are a lot of vested interests in keeping Trump from seeing his plans through. You know, the industries that will lose money are obvious. Luckily, Trump's guys are logical and they're smart and they're prepared. Don't forget, like, you still have a voice too. You can call, email, you can write to your local Senate office, you can share your opinion online. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and keep sharing your opinion because it's important. See you next time.